Andy, put the hammer down before you hurt somebody. All this talk about creationism versus evolutionism, there are two possibilities. Either the universe is created or it is not. If it is not, where does everything come from? Evolution is a part of an answer to that question. But let's put this all into some context. About 13.5 billion years ago, something big happened. Most people call it the Big Bang. It didn't probably look exactly like this, but there was some big explosion, not of a lump of matter, but of the universe itself, which exploded into existence, so to speak. This drawing here visualizes the timeline of the universe. On the very left, it's very small, that's the beginning. The universe was very small. On the right side is where we are today. 400 million years after the Big Bang, hydrogen and helium atoms collapsed into gas clouds and then into stars. The first stars were really big, they were burning very bright, and they didn't live very long, but they created most of the elements of today's universe. Then came the second generation stars like our sun, and then came planets like Earth. Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. Most people believe that. I do. Then, sometime later, something else happened. Life appeared. We don't really know what that is. We just know that things are very different when life is there than when it's not there. A tree, for example, collects elements from the ground, from the air, and grows, creating more life out of non-life. If I cut the tree down, it dies and decomposes. All the elements return to the ground. That's the opposite direction. What made the difference? Even scientists don't know exactly what that is, they say. And the field of study that deals with the issue of how life comes from non-life is called abiogenesis. There's a lot of speculation in there, but until now we can only really describe life's processes, and it's very fascinating, but we don't know where it comes from and why it's there. Once life exists, evolution comes into play. So we all know now what evolution is, right? After all, everything around us evolves. Car designs evolve, TVs evolves, computer systems evolve, my handy evolves. But careful. There is a major difference between all these human-made evolutions and evolutions in nature. For my mobile phone manufacturer to come up with the next generation of handies, he has an R&D department and a market research department and whatnot, who tells him what to do. But in nature, there is no such thing. In nature, progress happens, according to evolutionary theory, happens without intelligence involved. It happens through the cooperation of two blind, deaf, and entirely unintelligent partners, and these partners are called random mutation and natural selection. Okay, let's start with random mutation. Let me do this one more time. Okay. The kids did this all morning. It's real fun. You know? So my point here is that random mutation normally is destructive. Of course, clear evolution doesn't work on glass bottles. It works on living systems. But the point here is sort of the randomness of the nature of the process. So random mutation hardly ever gives us something better than the original after random mutation is applied. But where does random mutation occur in evolution? Well, the relevant random mutation occurs during the process of reproduction. When cells split, each new cell receives an identical set of chromosomes, most of the time. Sometimes, however, not. Sometimes nature makes a mistake, a random mistake. Random means the new cell is worse off than the original cell. So, and here now natural selection comes into play. If the cell is not as good as the original, then the plant or the animal or the bacterium or whatever comes out of it is less able to compete with the fellow plants and animals, and it dies, or it doesn't reproduce, or whatever. It sooner or later disappears from the earth. However, if it's better, it can compete better, and at some point it wins out over the competition and becomes a new standard. And that is the way how everything has evolved around us. That is a theory of evolution. Okay. Well, can this be? Well, sure. Yeah, it can be, of course. However, I mean, how probable is it? Well, I'm not going to enter this discussion, but creationists then come along and say, well, this is all so improbable, it can hardly work. So they compute all kind of probabilities. How probable is it that a mutation occurs? How likely is this mutation a good one? And so on and so on. And then in the end they come up with such a small chance that it could really happen that they say, this is so unlikely, it's not reasonable to believe that would really happen. No, there must be some intelligence involved. There must be an intelligent designer even behind the universe. There must be a God. Yeah. And he wrote this. Well, it's no fun if an intelligent discussion ends like that. But then, of course, evolutionists come in anyway, and they challenge these probabilities. You didn't consider all the parameters. There is simultaneous threads of developments, and so on and so on. And usually the concluding argument is you can't actually compute probabilities correctly because that's all so complex, and I actually agree with that. You can't really compute how probable it is because there are too many factors involved. And interestingly, evolutionists are quite happy with that argument. They don't go any further. They say evolution could work, so that settles it. That's the advantage of believing in the dominant paradigm. You don't really have to do much explaining anymore because the peer pressure apparently does the rest. But does that constitute scientific fact? I don't think so. So that's why I actually believe that evolution should be taught in philosophy class, together with creationism, intelligent design, all that stuff. Well, of course, that's just my opinion. But that said, anyway, I find that trying to prove God with science and mathematics and whatnot is a little bit of a cop-out. I mean, I believe that there are realms, spiritual realms in the universe that are accessible better through intuition, through spiritual insight than through scientific methods. Beethoven, he heard his symphonies before he wrote them down. Some of them. Kekule, he dreamt the solution to his problem and came up with the benzene structure. Einstein, he believed in God. That didn't keep him from formulating his theory of relativity. I think we should approach these realms with an inquiring mind, rather than having math competitions. Of course, spiritual realms are realms of cause, not of effect, like the material universe. We probably will have problems with repeatability. We can't manipulate, control the spirit by controlling the physical environment like in science. But still we can have an analytical approach to that. I like that, I do that. So that's why next time, rather than just picking one side and arguing as if my life depended on it, I want to present a view of a creator that works for me. It's from Moon's teaching, not entirely, but to a large degree. But you will quickly notice that this creator is different from the Christian concept of a creator. So, and he's a science fan, I might add. I hope you check back. Have a nice day.